Hey friends, it's Missy again. Thanks for joining me today. I'm back with another project. This one is for the Paige Evans design team. And this week on Paige's blog, we are featuring stars. And everything that I'm using for this project is from Turn the Page, which is her new collection. I'm sure you've seen it by now. It is so pretty. And there's actually lots of stars in this collection on the papers and in the embellishments. And my assignment for today was to make a project. And so I have several old picture frames laying around that are just in my drawers here in my craft room, and I thought, you know, I'm going to use some of the stars in this collection to jazz it up and kind of create something fun that's not a layout. Now this is the 12 by 12 paper pack, and if you've seen it or if you haven't, then you know that on several of the papers it has gold foil work on it, and I love this paper here. You can really see the gold shining on it. It's so pretty. It's almost like a rose gold, and it's just beautiful. And my initial thought for this project was to create something that had some of these fun quotes or sayings in this picture frame and sort of make like a motivational type of piece of art that I could stick on my desk or hang on the wall or put on my shelf. And so that's where my thought process was at first. And so I looked through this paper, and I'm going to wind up cutting a few of these little speech bubbles out. And they're easy to fussy cut because the shapes are pretty simple, and so that didn't take long. And I'm sorry for my voice. I started getting this cold last week when we had no power from the storm, and it's still lingering. I don't know if it's allergies or a cold, but it's very annoying, and so hopefully I don't sound too stuffy. So I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use, or if I wanted to use a couple of them. You know, as I'm looking at the paper, I'm trying to look at the different shapes, because you can see here there's squares, there's circles, there's ovals. So I cut a few to start with, and I knew that since our focus was stars, that I was going to need several stars. And so I just went through and started fussy cutting out the ones that I wanted to use. I wanted to stick with yellows, aquas, navies, and pink. And so I just cut out those stars. And then I thought I'll see what I've got and see what it looks like from there, and then we'll see what comes next. Now I wanted to do sort of a little background there. There's everything that I cut out, and this is just a sheet of smooth white cardstock from my stash, and I'm only going to need a little bit of it to fill the inside of that frame. So I'm going to do a little bit of mixed media work on that. And this is clear gesso. I'm just going to spread some out with a palette knife, because this cardstock is from a paper pad I think I got from Walmart, so it's not super thick, and I wanted to make sure that it was protected first. And so I added some gesso, and then I chose a couple of different shimmers colors here that matched all of those stars. And just in case you have shimmers or you're wondering, that blue color is a Vibes, and it's called Deep Blue Sea. And then I just added in colorings Well Blue Me Down, and then this one is Spritz Cotton Candy. And these colors match the stars that I've got really, really well. And this is sort of just a messy background here. I'm just spraying and then using the palette knife to smudge it down, and then doing a little bit of splattering here. A lot of this is going to be covered up. I just wanted a fun, messy, colorful base to back everything with, so it wasn't stark white in the background. And you can't mess this up. I mean, it's really just adding color and smudging it down. And so now I'm going to take the insert from the frame and trace it and go ahead and cut this out so I know exactly the size that I'm dealing with. And then I thought I will try it and make sure it fits, and it does. And I like how this looks already. I think it's really pretty. I love that background. And the frame itself is kind of a cross between silver and gold. Here's where I decided to go a different direction. I had these extra pictures. I've actually already scrapped this picture of my daughter probably a month or so ago for another layout. And I had some extra different size photos that I wound up not using on that layout. And so I thought, why don't I add a picture in here? And I think it looks really pretty. I like how it turns out. It winds up being like a mini layout that goes inside this frame, and I think it looks really cool. I think I really liked that little phrase that says, "Go get that dream." And when I decided to use that, I saw those photos and I thought, kind of just turns into like a motivational advice for my daughter. And I thought, well, I might as well just add this picture in here and just make it sort of a mini layout. So I decided to break out this stamp set. These are the layerable stamps from Turn the Page. And I'm going to do some heat embossing. And this is some gold embossing powder that I've had for forever. It's from Michael's. It's not expensive at all. And I don't do a lot of heat embossing. If I do, I usually use gold. And I just used what I have in that bottle there. It's basically the same as embossing ink, like an ink pad. It's just in a liquid form. And so I just dab that on, stamp it down, add the powder, and then use the heat gun to melt it. And it looks really cool. If you've never done heat embossing, it's very mesmerizing to watch the powder sort of melt and set. It's very cool. And I think that gold is so pretty on just about everything, but especially with this collection. And even though this is real, like a more of a brassy, bright gold, and the gold in this collection is more of a rose gold, and it's kind of matte and not too sparkly, it still looks pretty together, I think. So I keep bringing everything back and seeing what I've got here. Oh yes, Heidi Swapp Gold Color Shine, of course. Have to splatter some of that on there. So now I can kind of build everything that I have, and you're going to be able to see those embossed stars kind of peeking out from behind everything. And it looks like she's looking up and across at the word dreams and then the stars. So I kind of positioned her photo down there since she's looking up and across. And I'm going to wind up adding stars on the outside of the frame once it's all put together as well. So I like how this looks. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. And I wound up using 2 different pattern papers to cut these stars out. Paper 11 and paper 19 both have stars. And there's actually more that has stars, but these are just the only 2 that I got to. And since my little canvas here was so small, I didn't really need a lot of product. Now before I glue every single thing down, I did want to add some thread. You know, I can't make a project without tangled thread. And so I pulled out my 3 colors that I have here. I'm just going to start to glue everything down. And I wasn't too worried about dimension or anything because this was going to be smushed underneath that glass. And so I just kept everything flat. And I'm going to trim off the edges because I'm going to make sure this is going to fit inside the frame. And I really like how this turns out. I think it's something fun and different to do. And I like how that looks already as is. But then I got the wild hair to do some hand stitching. Honestly, I tried to do some machine stitching with gold thread first, but my machine was acting up and it kept catching and I just got fed up with it, and so I decided to do hand stitching. And then I decided since I was going to do that, I would do tone on tone. So I did yellow on the yellow, pink thread on the pink stars, and yeah, you can kind of see there. It just adds a little bit of texture. It's not too, it doesn't stand out a lot. It just adds some interest and makes it a little more detailed. It doesn't add too much bulk, so everything's going to fit in there nicely. And so now I'm going to start working on the outside of the frame, and I still have more stars. There's also some stars in the wood veneer pack, so I'm going to pull out a couple of those. And just do some little clusters of stars. Now this is from the 6x6 paper pad, and the good thing about the 6x6 paper pad is the patterns are smaller, but there's also the gold foiling. And so I'm going to cut a couple of those. So you really have a very good variety of different size of stars in this whole collection. And then I went into the ephemera die cuts, and I'm going to use that little magical arrow. I know it's not a star, but I just like the way it looks, and it's long and vertical, just like the side of the frames. and it matches perfectly, and it's just kind of pointing to the important part of this project. And so I thought, yeah, I'm going to stick that in there, and I like how that looks. And then I'm going to glue down all of these little clusters or layers of stars. And then I use a couple from the chipboard stickers, and I use the matte gold ones, and then I'm going to use a couple and stick them right on top of the glass. And so that's able to create a little more dimension than everything being behind the glass. And I never even thought of this in the beginning, but once I started getting to this point, I thought, just stick it on the outside of the glass, and I love how that looks. And I also go into the sticker book here and grab some of the word stickers that are the matte gold, and I stick those right on top of the glass, and it looks great. The top one says, "You got this," and then the bottom one that I added says "Future," since this is kind of a, you know, a go achieve your dreams type of project. And that's it. Now I took a couple of different pictures here. I think this would look so cute on a desk or on the wall or on a shelf. It's something fun. It didn't take that long, and it's kind of like a mini layout inside of a frame. So, you know, you could do this with any size frame that you have. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. See you next time, and hope you have a great weekend.